KGNS TV presents Issues 8, a public affairs presentation.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Issues 8 on this Sunday morning. My name is Tim Gutierrez, and we have a special guest here in the studio, William Krause from the House of Yahweh. He is a priest there. Going to talk to us about a lot of things and maybe clear up some things as well. But first of all, what is the House of Yahweh?
The House of Yahweh is the oldest religion on the face of the earth. The House of Yahweh, of course, is the Hebrew name of the Creator. A lot of people may or may not know that. If they look in any dictionary, they would see the name Yahweh plainly written in there as the name that was originally used in original scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures. The House of Yahweh, of course, is the family of Yahweh, the people that, the body of believers. It's not necessarily a building, although we do have a meeting place. But it is the body of the Messiah, the group of believers that follow the Holy Scriptures.
Now tell me, you were telling me earlier that you have several thousand members around the world, and actually some members here in Laredo and all over Texas, but the church basically based in the Abilene area, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Abilene, Texas is, and it's not based in Abilene for any other reason other than the prophecies show. That's where it would be placed in these last days. In fact, Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1 and 2 talks about in the last days, the mountain or the promotion of the House of Yahweh would be established, and the chief of the nations, says in the King James Version, the top of the mountains, but meaning the chief nation of all nations, which is the United States of America.
Okay. And how was Abilene picked out of so many locations, possibilities?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, when you look at a map, you know, if you went to Abilene, there's an Abilene in Israel too. It's called, actually pronounced Abilene. Okay, Abel was named after the first righteous priest, Abel, whom Cain killed, as you may have read in your Holy Scriptures. But there's a town of Abilene, Israel. The prophecy says that, you know, because the people rejected those laws in that area, that the House of Yahweh would move from that and go west. Actually, if you go to Revelation chapter, I believe it's chapter 7, it talks about a messenger ascending from the east. You know, when you ascend from the east, you're going west, bringing the laws, or, you know, bringing these laws in these last days to this land here. There's a whole host of prophecies that actually you would have to understand to see why Abilene, Texas is the place. But if you went on a map right now, if you went on a world globe and you looked at Abilene, Israel, if you went on a straight line, a direct line, I mean, on a hair, it would land right in Abilene, Texas, due west.
Tell me, how does the House of Yahweh differ from other religions like Christianity, Judaism, you name it, Muslim, you name it?
Okay, well, the House of Yahweh, what sets us apart from everyone else is the teachings. We follow the Holy Scriptures exclusively, from Genesis to Revelation. In other words, we follow both what they call the Old and New Testament. And we follow it completely, meaning that a lot of religions teach that the laws that are in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy have somehow been eliminated. That was the Old Covenant or the Old Testament. That we're under a new law today, you know, that just love your neighbor and love God with your whole heart. You know, we know that the Scriptures teach no such thing. We know that the Scriptures teach that we must live by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Father. So we follow all 613. There's 613 laws in your Bible. There's 10 commandments, but there's also 603 other laws, statutes, and judgments that go along with those that you can't leave out. You got to have them all as a whole. We follow all of them, and that's what sets us apart.
Now, how are you received by other religions and other people? How do they judge you?
Well, a lot of times, you know, Tim, people judge based on what they hear, like rumor, speculation, innuendo. But they, you know, for the most part, you know, the smart people, the educated people, they're going to go and they're going to look. Like, for instance, they could go to Yahweh.com right now and they could look at the House of Yahweh website and read all of the literature, read all the magazines, newsletters, books that are online, and so on and so forth. And they could see for themselves what we're actually teaching. Or, you know, they can listen to their neighbor and somebody over here that may have heard something about the House of Yahweh, and then, you know, and blindly follow that without getting the information themselves. And That's mainly what takes place in the world today, is we just don't get all the facts. We judge based on what we hear and see.
Several groups have been in the news recently, been under attack, I guess you can say, and one particular happens to be in the San Angelo area, not too far from Abilene,
Yes.
the Fundamentalist Church. What do you think about the whole situation that went down there in San Angelo, in El Dorado?
Well, you know, Tim, it goes back to what we just talked about the speculation and rumors and so on and so forth. I think that, I don't know anything about FLDS other than I do know some of the teachings of the Latter-day Saints, and I believe I used to be a saint, but a Latter-day Saint. And I saw the fallacy in what they were teaching, and eventually I was led to the House of Yahweh. But there are things that FLDS are actually promoting that are actually very beneficial. For instance, the modest dress. I know women were modestly dressed, not revealing body parts that actually cause lust to arise in the minds of men, which leads to fornication, adultery, and fornication and adultery, which leads to sexually transmitted diseases, which lead to broken homes, which lead to minds that don't work correctly because they're filled with chlamydia and syphilis and other results of these kind of things that they're doing. However, and I'm sure there are some things that they're doing that aren't on the mark, but I'm not here to judge FLDS. I just know that they did promote some things that were righteous, that are found in the Holy Scriptures, and I believe that's why they came under the radar of CPS and the officials in that area.
There were allegations of all types of things, from torture to rape with FLDS. But a lot of people are criticized the state or the government because they went in there and took large groups of people, even though the allegations were very thin as to just a few individuals. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with the Supreme Court ruling that CPS overstepped their bounds by taking all the children. If there was allegations made about a certain family, and I know in this case, Tim, I think we all know now, unless we didn't go read the news articles, that the allegations that were made against the man that raped the 15-year-old proved to be completely false. So the raid on the FLDS ranch was actually based and predicated upon false information. Now, as a result of the search and the other things they found, well, maybe they found some things now that they think they can use to justify going in. But I'm in full agreement with the Supreme Court. If there's allegations, Tim, in the Catholic Church, there's been priests that have been molesting children. Did they go in the Catholic Church and arrest all the people in that parish?
Yeah,
Did they go in there and arrest every parish member and take them, their children away to CPS and test them, DNA tests? And they didn't do that. They do it to certain groups that are promoting certain elements of righteousness that are found in your Bible. Because, the Bible does teach that when you do follow holiness, when you do follow these moral laws that are written in your Bible, you will receive persecution. And that's just the promise. You're going to receive it.
So you think in this case there was persecution, definitely?
Absolutely. I believe even that event that took place in FLDS is actually, I believe it was prophesied in your Holy Scriptures as well. But it was actually an event that was really ultimately to help the House of Yahweh, because I believe had they not made that ruling, the Supreme Court, had they not made that ruling at that time, they probably would have tried to go into the House of Yahweh and take all the children that were in that they call it a compound. Of course, it's not a compound, it's a campground where we keep the feast 3 times a year. They would have gone into the House of Yahweh grounds and taken the children there as well.
I know the